All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new DC update. And first of all, I have to give kudos to all of those out there in my last two videos who totally misinterpreted the whole point of the videos. Good for you for developing your own narrative and running with it. I find it hilarious, some of the ridiculous comments that I had in my comment section. My favorite being that I said that I believe that story about that certain actor playing Lex Luthor. I clearly said in the video that I don't believe it, but you guys can take whatever I say and run with it however you want. That video will be there forever for everybody to go see, and I certainly did not say that I believed it. Did I believe that it could be a possibility? Absolutely. But I did not say that I believed it. So good for you guys on your comprehension skills. Keep it up. Keep it up. It's entertaining to read and entertaining to watch. Now, the point of today's video is all about the state of the DCU, the state of Warner Brothers Discovery, and all of the confusion that is coming out of the studio. It's reached new heights. Now, in a video I did last week or the week before, I made it clear that there were stories by the media saying James Gunn has been forthcoming on social media. He's got clarity on the DCU and the direction he's going with it. But you know what? That has not translated to the audience and to the general audience, fans, or not what we're seeing on social media, that's for sure, because he keeps changing his mind on everything. And he'll say one statement and then do something completely different. Now, we've seen this a couple of times, but I do have some photos to show you guys today, which I think are interesting. So the first thing I wanted to address here is I had several people reach out to me about this story coming out that Henry Cavill is to return as Superman in the new DC movie. This was written on InsideTheMagic.net, and people had linked this to me, sent it to me and wanted me to talk about this. This is a non-story because he is not returning as Superman, and what this story is referring to is not his return as Superman, but he is referenced in the new Blue Beetle film. And I'm going to talk a bit about my, first reactions on Blue Beetle. I forgot to do that in yesterday's video. It was a long one, and I actually forgot to talk about that. But we're going to talk a little bit about Blue Beetle here today. But he is not returning as Superman. So here's the first point of contention that I wanted to show you guys in regards to what James Gunn is doing. So James Gunn posted this back in December of last year. And he said, among those on the slate is Superman in the initial stages. Our story will be focusing on an earlier part of Superman's life, so the character will not be played by Henry Cavill. Those were his words. This was right after Henry Cavill got let go, and I'm now starting to believe that Henry Cavill just didn't want any part of what James Gunn was doing or is going to do with the character. And it's because of some new comments by James Gunn that makes me believe this even more than when I had assume this, previously. But let's look at what his new statements are. Now, before I show you his newest post, I did want to show you how he backed up his original comments a day after he had posted about Superman being recast. Somebody asked him, James Gunn, when you show us the movie coming out, will you explain why Henry Cavill is getting recast, please? He said, as I said yesterday, it is very simple. He's a different age. Now, this would lead you to believe that this is going to be the same DC universe, but they're going to be focusing on an earlier stage of Superman's life, hence why it's not Henry Cavill. But now we're going to see the comments he made to somebody just a few days ago. Here it is. He said, I was never making a young Superman movie, just a Superman movie. You can't make this stuff up, people. You just cannot make this stuff up. This is from the man himself. This totally contradicts what he said before. And talking about Henry Cavill, he was still early in his Superman career as well. And so there's no reason why he couldn't go with him. This leads me to believe that he's not coming back because he didn't want what James Gunn was doing. We saw this same level of confusion when James Gunn came out and publicly said, yeah, I've met with Ben Affleck, and we would like for him to direct for the DCU. We just need to find the right project. But then a few months later, he had an interview, not James Gunn, but Ben Affleck had an interview. I believe it was I think it was Variety, if I'm not mistaken. And it was that long, lengthy thing where he talked about, the troubles he had with Joss Whedon and everything else. And he talked about that meeting with James Gunn and how he has no desire to direct anything for the DCU at all, that he won't go anywhere near it. Kind of contradictory. And it's funny, people will focus on the fact that James Gunn didn't lie. They had a meeting. Yeah, they did. But we're getting two sides of the story. And then we have the most recent thing with Wonder Woman, where you have Gal Gadot saying she was promised to come back for Wonder Woman 3, but then the studio's coming out, and James Gunn hasn't publicly talked about this, and I talked about this in my video yesterday, that he hasn't addressed this yet. And there's a reason why they haven't addressed it. She is probably the most popular face of the DC universe, the DCEU, simply because she had 2 movies, and her first one was amazing, and she was in Batman vs. Superman, plus her films, plus she was in Shazam, and she was also in The Flash. So she's definitely, got the most screen time out of any of those characters. And so they're probably afraid to say something. And today it was, somebody sent me some information that also Margot Robbie is probably staying on as Harley Quinn. And so there's some question as to what they're doing. This also adds to that Wonder Woman confusion. It says the DC Universe's Wonder Woman will not have the same origin as the DCU version played by Gal Gadot, according to a new rumor. Now, this is just a rumor. James Gunn's Wonder Woman will reportedly have a different origin than Gal Gadot's DCU version. That's coming from comic book resources, I believe. And they're not always to be trusted, but this again adds to more of the confusion. And let's talk about this confusion and what's going on. So this confusion is just off the charts. There is obviously no clarity. When James Gunn made the announcement about his reboot or his universe or his slate, he specifically said that The Flash rebooted the DC universe and that moving forward, we were going to have some characters would remain the same, some would be different. But he didn't explain how that was going to happen. And The Flash didn't reset anything. The Flash is just in a different place. But that doesn't explain how they're going to start off this DC universe. And people were hoping that Blue Beetle would clarify some of that. There are 2 post-credit scenes in Blue Beetle. Neither one of them addressed this specific issue. And the movie certainly doesn't. It actually makes references to Henry Cavill's Superman several times in the film, some of the events that happened. So it is definitely a DCEU film and was always meant to be. But then James Gunn said he will be the first DCU character that will float over. Now, one of those post-credit scenes in Blue Beetle does set up one of the main characters of the Blue Beetle universe. And people are wondering if that character is actually going to make it over to James Gunn's or if they're just going to pull the character into it and not the backstory, in which case it makes this movie, the Blue Beetle movie, completely irrelevant. And this is the confusion. This is the confusion I'm talking about. Who should be going to see these films? If they're doing away with the DCEU, the films are pointless. And this is why a lot of people are boycotting and why I have just no desire to see this. This isn't the direction I wanted this universe to go in. Now, like I said, if I go see it, it's going to be for $5 on a Monday or Tuesday when it's right next to my house, 5 minutes away. Nothing but confusion. This is all the studio is peddling right now. There's no clarity on anything. They need to come out and kind of explain what is happening. And people are like, just wait until the first project comes out. Well, you've got to do better than that, because how do you expect people to go see the first project if they don't know what the heck is going on? Creature Commandos is supposedly the first project, but Blue Beetle's the first DCU character? Where's the clarity on this? This is the confusion. People will say, sit back and just wait. Wait for what? Wait for more garbage to be peddled by the studio? They're not explaining how this is all going down. They're not explaining how it all connects, what's going to carry over, what's not. There's no explanation on anything. And I still am of the mind that the general audience still is going to expect to see Henry Cavill back as Superman after the events of Black Adam. Because just regular moviegoers who went to see that, that's what was promised, is that Henry Cavill and Black Adam were going to be back, and now they're not. In fact, Black Adam is not a part of the DCU at all, at least in the first phase. But again, I don't know if this stuff is ever going to get off the ground because, like I mentioned in my video yesterday, this strike, I know several SAG-AFTRA fellow voice actors and actors. I know one who's actually an actor, and he said that this strike is expected to go into next year, into January or February. That's not good. That's not good for anybody. They will not be able to get Superman Legacy out on time. They're going to have to go, do it on a budget. Now, let's talk about the first reactions to Blue Beetle. I forgot to put this on my video yesterday. The general consensus over everything that I've seen and watched and read is that the movie's mediocre at best, that it's not worthy of being on the big screen, that the best part of the film is the family dynamic between Reyes and his family, that's the best thing it has going for it. The story is generic. The villain is a throwaway villain. And the special effects are, I saw an article today that said they're 80s level special effects. Also, it's got kind of a retro soundtrack, which I'm interested in hearing. And so they said that this is, if you're going to expecting to see a game-changing superhero film, this isn't it. If you're going to see something about a family dynamic and how important family is, then that's what this story is mainly about. And so that's what you can expect from this. And it is scheduled to make around $30 million over the weekend. I would be surprised if it does that. That would finally dethrone Barbie, which is now the #1 film domestic release ever for Warner Brothers. So you can expect some more man-hating materials to be coming out from some of these studios here in the near future where they continue to make men look like idiots and unimportant. I can guarantee you that's coming down the pike. And so we've got some interesting things to look forward to here in the future. But Warner Brothers is still on fire. The ship is sinking, and there doesn't seem to be any positivity at the end of the tunnel when it comes to Warner Brothers. So if you expect I'm going to stop talking about James Gunn, some people said I'm cyberbullying him. That isn't the case. Yes, I'm going to criticize him for his comments. These are public comments that he's made. I'm not judging the man himself. I'm judging what he's doing in regards to these films. And for all those people that say, wait until the first thing comes out, I've seen his stuff. I've seen all of it. I think the only thing I haven't seen that he's done is Super, if that's what it was called. And he has inappropriate jokes in every movie. People are like, well, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was amazing. There were some pretty disgusting jokes in there as well, if you've seen the movie. There was one in particular about a dead baby that was absolutely deplorable, and I don't know how it was allowed to be made, actually allowed to pass and actually be in the film. And so those are the things I'm not looking forward to. He can't help it. It's who he is. All right, so there's my update for the day. We will see you guys on the next update.